Welcome back to Unlocking Our Code podcast. Today, we're shedding light on something that has touched all of us at some point, victim energy. But here's the truth. Victim energy is not who we are. We are not what happened to us. We are not the pain, the struggle, or the past. We are something so much greater. And today, we're unlocking the codes to help shift out of that energy and back into our power. And I'm here with Lou. Hi, Lou.
Hey. Hello. I'm excited for this. We put a lot of thought into this one.
Yeah, a lot of energy for sure.
I know. We just want to get the message right without, we just want to be like, I feel without not only offending anybody, but we want to say this message with compassion and that it comes from a place of love, not a place of judgment. I'm
Correct.
guessing, right?
Yes, because that's so important that we definitely put that out there, that our main intention is to bring awareness to what victim energy is, and with lots of empathy and love, because obviously it's not a topic that is easy to touch on. I think we've all experienced difficult things in our life. So it's why we definitely are focused on making sure that our intention is love, compassion, and empathy as we go through the information tonight, for sure. So thank you, everyone, for joining us again. We're definitely, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I know. We hope that you guys can listen to this, and if something resonates with you, it could bring awareness. Or if you have or know of someone that can probably, benefit from listening to this episode, send it to them. And, all it is just bringing awareness.
Yeah, for sure. What do you feel? Let's start with the definition of victim energy. What do you feel like when you hear that word? What does it feel like for you?
For me, it was, hearing it as, victim energy is just being in the state of, life happens to me, like everything happens to me. Experiencing powerlessness or seeing any circumstances that happens to you as a punishment or bad luck. And then focusing on that and constantly being in the why does this always happen to me state of mind. And I also wrote this down, like feeling you feel at the mercy of your external forces, like you're at their mercy. You have pretty much no power to fight back or create anything that happens to you. And then you repeat these patterns and you stay in this pattern, so you're repeating it without any evolution, like no change. There's nothing There's nothing that changes from the type of lifestyle that you live in. You just keep falling into the same patterns. And so it's always a why me, happens to me. It's always to me, bad luck. I always have this bad luck. That's the type of stuff that it's just never your, I guess I don't want to say fault. You never look at what role you played into it. It's always somebody else or something else outside of you that is causing this, I don't know, I guess, what can I say, this energy, this negative energy.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I feel that victim energy, when I became aware of my own victim energy, I felt that at that point of my life, I had no choice. Like I had no choices. It was, I also felt like it defined me. Everything that had happened to me in the past, all my trauma, everything I went through was me.
Yeah, like that was you.
Like that's me.
Yeah.
That's my identity.
I totally get that, yeah.
And once I started obviously becoming aware of this energy is when I started digging more into it. What is it? How have I been a victim of my own story? Not only was I a victim to everything that happened to me, right? To all the abuse, the trauma, and everything that I went through. But I was also myself a victim to my own story on top of it. It wasn't just the experiences, but I was too, like adding my own self, my own everything, my mind, body, and soul onto that, and creating like an identity, a victimhood, right?
Yeah.
So because I feel that that's important, that we learn to distinguish victim energy versus who we truly are.
Yeah.
Right? Because we are not that energy. We are not what happened to us. We are not our past. We are not our stories. We are none of those things. We are something greater than that. This doesn't mean that we disregard the pain at all.
Right.
Because I feel that acknowledging the pain and all those moments that we went through, it's important, because if we don't, then at this point we are bypassing something that we obviously went through. We're not giving ourselves compassion or empathy for what we did go through. What I mean is like not defining ourselves through our stories, through our past, through our trauma, through everything that we went through, right? And creating an identity. Victim energy is not an identity, it's a state, and a state that we can shift out of whenever we choose to, right? But first we have to become aware that it's a thing, that we're in that energy.
You're in that state of energy, that state of mind. Because yes, I completely understand what you're saying. I feel that for a long time, I think that's how I was not describing myself, maybe describing myself, or that's who my identity was, right? All the bad stuff that had happened to me. And I didn't know, I found it really difficult to like share anything else. Like I found it really difficult to like, when people said like, oh, tell me a little bit about yourself, or like, your childhood was like and everything. And I could only think of those things, and I was just like, oh no, I'm like, I've only went through bad stuff. Like there's nothing good, I'm just so yeah, I felt like for a long time that I carry that as my identity. And it took a lot of awareness to realize like that's not who I am. The things that happened to me is not me, So, but it is a lot of awareness. And
being ready, right? And also I feel like you have to be at a certain vibration to take this information on, right? Because if we, like I could talk for myself, right? At the beginning of my journey, I didn't necessarily go straight there. Straight into like seeing that I was not a victim. I had to go through many different, I could call them like chapters, portals, different chapters that I had to go through before I arrived to understanding that I was not a victim of my story. I had to first, I had to acknowledge my pain and almost like relive it in my own way, right? Go through the pain, through the grief, through the sadness, through the sorrow, and just allow myself to feel all of that first. Because if I had gone straight to that's not who I was, then I would be bypassing a lot of stuff that we have to face before we arrive there, right?
Yeah, you can't go from like I'm a victim to, oh, that's not me, okay, No. And then just kind of like that's what bypassing is, trying to rush through it, or say things like, oh, I'm good now, like I don't need to talk about that, I don't need to relive that. That's the biggest part of in general just of healing, is to feel these things that are inside of us that we haven't released. And a lot of the time it comes with tears, and it comes with a lot of pain all the time, but it comes with tears, and those are all the things that people don't want to deal with, and so it does. I agree that you have to go through that in order to, as a step.
Yeah, for sure. Because I also have here that it's a response to pain, right? Being in the victim state, it's actually a response to pain that we have. We go into victimhood because it's a little bit easier to navigate through whatever, especially if it's a big thing, if it's a big challenge, if it's something big that happened to us. In that moment, going into the victim energy, it will actually alleviate a lot of the pain that we are feeling in that moment in a certain way, because you're not having to see the whole picture at once. You're just kind of saying, I'm going to see it just from the victim point, and then from here I'll move forward. So it's like it's a response that we're having to an event that we experienced that was traumatic at a certain level, right?
I could see that.
And but it doesn't define us. So always understanding that our response, none of that defines who we are. And also acknowledging that the moment we have awareness that we have, or that we are living from the victim energy, that's when we can begin to make different choices, right? If we can't see it, if we're not ready to own it, if we're not ready to take that step, it just, nothing will move. Nothing will change from there.
Nope. Nope. I totally agree with that. I feel that one of the reasons why maybe people tend to stay in that state of mind, or it's easy, right? Because I think for me, it was easy to just kind of remain in that. It's just kind of like leaving your worries on, just like dumping them somewhere and then walking away and being like, here, you deal with it, and it's just like, it's definitely like, I think now it's a way of protecting myself from being vulnerable, from believing that I have no power. Because if I believed that I had no power over my life, then guess what? I'm not responsible for absolutely anything that happens to me, right? So if everything's always happening to me, and I have no power to change absolutely anything, then I'm not taking any risks. I'm not responsible for anything. And so that is a huge weight lifted off our shoulders. So when someone's not ready to take their power back, it's easy to stay in that, in that victim mentality, right? So I think for me, and for a lot of people, it's probably easy to say that I'm not responsible. This is just stuff that happens to me.
Yeah.
It's just bad luck.
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel that now, like thinking back, right? Not that I don't think that we ever are done healing, but thinking back to when I was living very deeply in that pattern of victim mentality, I wasn't well. Now that I think about it, now that I think about everything, right? Everything in my life was chaotic. Everything I touched, everything I was around, from my job to my home to everything was chaotic. It was like the house is on fire at all times, right? A lot of drama, a lot of problems, a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelming, anxiety, most likely probably depression, and that at that point I couldn't pinpoint. Now that I think about when the victim energy was one of my primary energies, there was a lot of chaos there. Because think about it, if victim energy is one of your primary energies, what comes from that? Like, you're living there, you're living in that home, and from there you're creating everything else, right? So I feel that, and I also remember that I was very resentful, very angry, very, very angry, especially towards my family, towards my parents, especially towards my parents, because I believed that I had been a victim of everything that happened to me in childhood, right? And who was there to blame?
Of course.
Them, right? So I definitely remember very like having those intense emotions, and they would never leave me. I could never say that, oh, I'd have a good day and a bad day. No, I think every day was just an intense bad day. It was just filled with so much chaos.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, my reality was reflecting how I was feeling internally, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I feel like some days were probably not as bad as others, but when you're in that state of mind, it is very easy to blame everybody. I remember I went through the same exact thing, feeling like I was a victim of the childhood. I wanted to blame my parents for the same exact thing. I wanted to blame them for everything that happened to me. I wanted to blame people in my life. At one point, my siblings, I know I mentioned it before, for not being, what I thought I needed at the time. And all of that came with a lot of blaming others or not being able to forgive others. That's heavy, and for a few years, maybe a couple of years after I came to that realization, before I came to the realization of where I was living from, it was not fun. I was angry, and being in that angry state of mind, like I needed validation. I needed them to. I wanted people to apologize to me. I mentioned it before. Also, that's being in that energy state of mind, right? Of being a victim. But I wasn't. There's nothing good came out of that. Like absolutely nothing. And so I think I realized then the power of like having to forgive myself for having these expectations. And then because I had to really look at myself as in like, what was I expecting, or what were my expectations from them? Realizing that these things, it took a lot of deep work, obviously, right? But a lot of these things happen because of these things. I'm now where I'm at, and I'm able to forgive me first and foremost for having set these expectations, for having that resentment at the time, for having that anger at the time when they even had no idea. They had no clue. Well, you know what? I was torturing myself. I wasn't torturing them. They had no clue. Everybody was living their life. But it was just more pain, more poison for me. Mm-hmm. And it's because I decided to stay in that, in that time. Right. And so, yeah, being aware of that you're just really causing more harm to yourself. And I think subconsciously you are also attracting these things because you feel that you're in that lack state of mind, or that poor me state of mind, or that these things always happen to me state of mind. So you're subconsciously just attracting you become a magnet to those things. And so then these things do arise more in your life, right? But because I'm so aware of it, I find it so I just don't see when I bump into people that are in that state of mind. I don't know how to like guide them to, I don't without them feeling like they're being attacked. That's why I feel like this episode we try to be very very careful how we're phrasing things and how we're saying things, and not coming across as we're attacking anybody or pointing fingers, but just want to be, because we went through it.
Yeah, so we ourselves have been there, and I'm sure there's some areas I could see right now directly we're still in certain areas.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm still very much in that paradigm, because it's like, yeah, it's easier to release that mentality in certain areas, but not all areas are as easy to be released, right? So some of the other signs that I have here that that will help you identify if you are living or holding on to victim energy is you're feeling stuck in past pain or repeating painful cycles, focusing on what was done to you instead of what you can do like now to heal from the things from the past, feeling powerless to change your reality, seeking external validation for the pain rather than self-empowerment.
Yep.
So like those are some of the signs that you can look at and question yourself, right? Am I in any area living in any of these cycles myself, right? Am I still holding on to any victim energy in any other areas of my life, right? And of course, releasing this victim energy is not easy. And I don't ever recommend people to do it on their own. I always say seek for support, even if it's a friend, somebody, a mentor, somebody that can help you, because once we start seeing these patterns, it's not easy to see the pattern. So it's always important that we have some type of support for when we dip down those, I like to call them muddy areas where it's just everything's really dark, right? What we also want to acknowledge, right, that what happened to us in this process was real, right? The trauma, the pain, everything we went through was real. And we're not going to deny that we experienced the pain that we experienced, because I feel that, like I said at the beginning, that's extremely important that we recognize what we went through, but that we have a choice. We don't have to stay in the shadows of like our own pain, or in the shadows of our own wounds, in the shadows of the people that caused this pain to us, right? I mean, I feel the way I see it is like these events that I went through already took so many years of my life where I could have been, maybe happier or whatever. They already took so much. So it's like recognizing and acknowledging and taking our power back. Like, I'm no longer willing to give more energy to these topics. I'm not giving my well-being away anymore to these things that happen like to me, right? So I feel like also that was one of the fuels behind me healing this energy. It was like I was just exhausted of being a victim of everything, a victim of the people, a victim of life, a victim of everything that used to happen around me, right? I was just so exhausted.
Yeah.
And I think questioning,
you're just like on survival mode. You're not even living. You're just trying to survive from a place of dark, a density of like dense, You're so it's not, you're not really living. You keep holding on to if you keep holding on to things and holding on to things that cause you pain, and you keep holding on to who the hate or the anger or the hurt from the person who caused the pain, you're holding on to this heavy, dark, dense energy that just weighs you down. And we survive from that. A lot of the times it just keeps us on survival mode, and the anger and the pain or the hurt, it can get us going for a while, right? It can help us survive, but you're not really living. I mean, you're really not. And so at the end of the day, you're just really hurting yourself. And it's going to come to the point where Tivi's mentioning, where you're going to realize, you're going to come to that awareness, that realization. And hopefully you're not when you're like on your deathbed, when you're realizing, man, I did all of this, all these years. I went hating so-and-so, or I was angry at so-and-so, or I resented such and such. I thought of them every day, and I was so angry, so mad, because at the end of the day, that is just your own poison. You're just poisoning yourself.
For sure. Yeah. And I feel, I mean, even with all this information that we said so far, right? It's like there's such an opportunity to transform all of this into light as well, to acknowledge that, yes, first we acknowledge the darkness, like we said, right? We don't bypass the darkness. We acknowledge, we feel what we need to feel. We grieve what we need to grieve. And we allow that old version of us to die. We once we've gone through the process of acknowledging the darkness, now we can move to the process of death and rebirth, of allowing that old version of us that was living from victim energy to just die, so that this new version of us can be born, right? And there's so much transformation energy available for us at all times when we make the conscious choice that we no longer want to live from the victim energy anymore, especially as a primary frequency or as a primary energy, right? I mean, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for people that are still there, because I know how that feels. I was there many, many years. And like I said, I'm still in that energy in some areas of my life, because it's been very difficult to release that energy, because there's also parts of us that sometimes don't want to release that energy towards certain people, because we've used it as a protective mechanism to protect ourselves, whether we're protecting our inner child, we're protecting younger versions of ourselves. So then that energy has more power towards certain people, because there's like this stubborn part, right, that says if you release, you're in trouble, right? Because we've used it as a
mechanism,
the protective mechanism in so many ways, right? But I feel like just the fact that when you become aware, that's like the first step, right? Just the awareness itself.
Exactly.
It might take you a little longer in certain areas and less in others, but you will arrive. You will arrive. There's no doubt about that. It's just allowing ourselves to go through the process.
But another thing also that I feel that it's super important is having like that compassion for yourself without no judgment, right? Like when you let's say, for example, you're listening to this and something deep down is saying like, hey, like, have you realized that we always say, why did this always happen to me, or why me, or this is not fair, or, oh, well, I have no choice, it is what it is, like these things always happen to me, and then you realize that you're kind of living in that state of mind constantly. But then there's a there's a part of you saying like, hey, have you are you paying attention? Have you realized that this is probably us? This is probably you. And just observing that thought and sitting with it, but without judging yourself, without judging yourself and saying, because it is a hard pill to swallow sometimes. That's, it is something that, who wants to say that they're in that state of mind? Nobody. Absolutely nobody wants to say that they live like that or they feel that way. So it's super important that when you are thinking of this, or you're trying to kind of dig deep and down and see if this can probably relate to you, don't look at it as a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. For one reason or another, being in the state of mind or being in this energy of victimhood, it was protecting you for a reason. Like Divi said, it was protecting you from something, and all it's doing is helping you so you're not so you don't feel pain, so you don't feel shame, guilt, whatever the case might be. It's just a protection, a shield, right? So it's not that it makes you a bad person. It doesn't make you a terrible human or whatever. So don't see it as a judgment, or don't see it as a bad thing. But it's really good to be very aware of it. That way you can start to understand, right? Like how it's affecting you, because it also all these things affect you physically as well, but how it affects you, so you can start recognizing the patterns. Where is it coming from? What is it that triggers these things? Who triggers me? What situations trigger it? What topics, when I talk about these things, what topics trigger these things? And so you understand where your responses are coming from, and only you can figure out these type of no one else can tell you where they come from. Only you yourself can like really dig deep and figure it out. And like Devi said, if you need to find a friend or someone that can help you navigate through that, I think that's a great idea. That's how I figured out a lot of the things, just sitting here with Devi and being able to talk about just being able to be open and say like, yeah, I talked about situations where I didn't realize that I was playing the victim part. I just didn't realize it. It was so normal to me, and it became so, it was just so normal. Like this is a reaction that I should have. Why, and her just even saying the words like, well, what about you? Like, look at yourself, or why do you feel that you have to do that? Did it sting? Yeah, probably. Like it was kind of one of those things where I was just like, what? I'm not trying to be the victim, but deep down inside, I knew I was, Yeah. But now I can see myself way different, and I don't see it with a shame, and I don't see it with a guilt, and I don't have any ill feelings towards it. I'm actually very thankful for it, because all it did was try to protect me from feeling pain, from exposing myself, from realizing that I do have, that I am responsible for my life, that I am responsible for what happens, for what I'm feeling, for what I'm creating. And it's very empowering at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah. You claimed your power, right? Through the process of feeling, through the process of taking responsibility, through the process of just acknowledging all of it, the darkness and the light. Through that process, you are able to reclaim your power.
Yeah.
You are able to open the doors to healing, so that healing can finally come through, right? Because if we are living in either or, like we said when we were off the mic, if we're living in victim mentality, that's victim energy, that's the shadow, that's the dark, right? So if you're living in that state day and night, you're in darkness, you're in your own hell, right? If you are in the opposite end, which is you're living from light, super overly positive, oh, nothing happened to me, my parents were great, everything was great, I have no resentment towards anybody or anything. That is spiritual bypassing. That is you bypassing what happened to you, your pain, your true story, what you really feel. That is called bypassing. And when you bypass that, you're not honoring your truth. You're not honoring your feelings. You're not honoring your inner child. You're only wanting to see light. And there's also darkness in that, because you're bypassing. You're just saying nothing happened. I was great. Everything was great. I'm fine. Right. But deep down inside, there's parts of you that are dishonored and abandoned because you're not willing to honor your truth, to honor your pain. Right. I often see a lot of that. I see a lot of that where I'll ask people, no, everything's great, nothing happened. I had the best child. I truly don't believe that there's, I mean, at least I don't have the belief that there's a person on earth that has not gone through any type of trauma in childhood. I really don't believe that. I think that there's levels to it. But there's also a lot of bypassing because we don't want to hold accountable the people that we love the most, which in a lot of times could be our siblings, could be our parents. We don't want to say they hurt us, because if we admit that, then now I got to see them different, right? So it's like, it's also being aware of that there's also such thing as bypassing.
I think I heard it one time. It's spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. And it's a thing, where you just want to be blind. Just put a blindfold on me and let's just say everything is pretty and pink, and everything has been pretty and pink. And in the eyes of others, you're going to look perfect. You're going to look like nothing. Oh, like this person is just amazing. Like, I wish I had their life. They're always so happy. They're perfect. Nothing goes wrong. Everything is, their kids are perfect. Their husband's perfect. Their home is perfect. Their life is perfect. And then, but there's just no way that person is carrying that's how deep their shield, their protection is, that they refuse, that it's almost like impenetrable, like they just can't, then themselves can't.
Yeah.
But that's heavy.
Yeah.
That's exhausting. Imagine living like that every single day. I just wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, it's exhausting both ways, right? It's exhausting to live in darkness. It's just live there for years and years and years and years. And it's also exhausting to pretend that you're living in light for years and years and years. There is a concept that we all have to understand, that there is no light without darkness, and there is no darkness without light. They both exist at the same time. And acknowledging both in every situation, especially when you're trying to heal or when you're trying to bring balance into your life, you cannot skip either or. You must embrace the shadow and embrace the light, both equally.
Yep.
They're both equally important in this process of getting out of victim energy, in this process of healing, in the process of transformation. You will not be able to bypass it forever, at least not forever. You could try for a little bit, but
I think it'll take you a certain way, definitely, for sure, but and then it's just gonna hit you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. I've seen I could talk from my own self, right? And my own family and other families that I've been exposed to. My family is very rooted in shadows and dysfunction, right? And then seeing other people's family that is rooted very much in just light. Everything's light, everything's love, everything's positivity. Nobody talks about their problems. Nobody discusses dysfunction. It is happening, but nobody discusses it. All of that is also toxicity. All of that is also dysfunction. All of that also plays a role in this victim energy, right?
Right.
So it's just like, it's also important that we're aware of that there's also darkness in chasing light all the time.
There has to be a balance.
Correct.
Right? A balance in everything. And their daylight needs, the only way it can exist, daylight, it's dark, and night, right? It's a cycle. It completes itself. The yin, the yang, right?
Yeah. The moon and the sun.
Exactly. Like what they say, sound exists because there's silence, right? So I mean, something new dies when something new is born, when something dies. Like there just has to. You have to embrace both. You have to embrace both, and then just like accept it. Accept it. So if all you're doing is reading positive affirmations every single day. And I think that's one of the things too I learned, is that I was thinking that I was really growing because of that, because I was just trying to stick to all the positive stuff. And I didn't really want to like dive into into the stuff that was hurtful, into the stuff that I had I had survived, but I didn't really like want to bring up. I knew it was there, but I didn't really want to like go too deep into those issues. And I just kind of try to stay in those, wear my pink, what do they say with the pink, my rose colored glasses. There we go. Okay. I was like, what the hell am I saying right now? Rose gold colored glasses. There you go. Like somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
But you just can't have that. So it's just an energetic imbalance if you're just trying to do one or the other. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And it's important that we just bring awareness to all of it, right? That we bring awareness to the shadow, and that we bring awareness to the light. But I feel like they're all both equally important. I don't feel that we can fully heal or we can fully embody higher frequencies or anything like that without when we are trying to bypass either or. Right.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, any energy you reject, it's not going to disappear, but it just will create like an energetic imbalance. I guess that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure. And it's why all this information's important, right? We definitely want to make sure that we are touching on all the different areas that create the whole victim energy as a whole. right? There's many pieces that create the victim energy, and understanding that living from that place is a choice, right? We don't have to stay there longer than we need to. We don't have to live another 10-15 years there. We can choose to step out of it. We can choose to take our power back at any point that we desire to. We just have to make the choice, and nobody else can make that choice for you but you. But there is a process, right? There is a process that is behind releasing the victim energy. There is such a deep understanding that, first, you are not what happened to you, right? You are not your past. You are not your pain. Second is acknowledging that you did live those moments, but those moments don't define you, right? You not like releasing the identity attachment to the victim energy and to the past and to what you went through, and having compassion as you're seeing this information is also crucial. Grieving, feeling everything that you need to feel so that the energy can release, and allowing that version of yourself to die, right? Like letting go of the need to live from from that victim energy, because and a lot of times we're also very like in a way addicted to living from that place, because it's our it's our comfort zone to just stay there in those patterns, to live from that place. We think we're thriving there, because the chaos and all the things that are happening on a daily basis are just feeding that cycle, right? But it's just not a healthy place to, at least the way I see it, I don't believe it's a healthy place to do life all your life.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, like I feel like at one point, like everything will just collapse pretty intensely for people when we don't choose consciously to step out.
I don't think it's sustainable. I feel also another thing that kind of was brought up, it kind of brought up, is like being in that state also. It's if you were needing something, or you're needing or you lacked like affection, or you lacked attention, or you lacked as a child, you lacked just support, guidance, whatever, to be held from as a child, you can see this victim mentality as a way to get that attention, you get that sympathy from others, or that empathy from others, that attention where people come and like, oh man, you went through a hard life, like, yes, you which again we're not saying that your pain is not, let's just dismiss it. No, we're not just dismissing it, but that's also another, if that's something that you're thriving from, or that you're getting from being in that mental state, it's because it's something deeper, right? There's something deeper rooted that you are lacking or need of now that you're an adult. So I feel that was another thing too. I think it affected me at one point. I think being able to share my stories and saying, this is what I came from, this is how I dealt with, or the things that I dealt with as a kid. Being able to share those things, like, I guess, like maybe like at my work, when we had work events and people were talking about like, oh, the vacations that they took, and I just did this, I did that, and I'm just like, oh, why don't you relate? And they're like, oh, as a kid you didn't do nothing, and I would be like, no, not really, we just, and I would like say the things that I had to deal with as a child that were painful to me, that kept me in that state, and then them saying like, oh my God, Lou, like, you're so strong, and like everything kind of like gave me that validation, again, seeking validation from exterior, outside of, but that was before I even realized what I was doing, so that can also be another thing that people are chasing while they're staying in that,
Or now that you're saying that, and it's making me like think that when we don't release the victim energy in certain situations in our lives, we just keep creating more and more and more situations to validate that we're a victim to the person or to the pattern or to like the circumstances, right? It doesn't end. Like it just doesn't stop, because now I'm like picturing my own self, what I'm experiencing that I haven't been able to break through yet. That part of me where I'm still in that victim energy has not stopped repeating the cycle. It's like a CD that's just playing or the same music over and over and over. It just doesn't stop. The cycle has not changed. It has not stopped because I have refused, not on a mental level, but on a subconscious level, to release the victim energy. Like I was done to, like, you hurt me, you did this, you did that to me. And because there's this part of me that refuses to release that, for some reason, I still might not be ready in that part. That is why the cycle repeats.
Yeah. Do you feel that that's your, it's our ego that plays a big role, and like you can't let go of this pain, you can't let go, you can't release this because this is still protecting you from, like you said, you know, the damage was done, you did this to me, so I'm going to hold on to this. And so again, it goes back to that, it's protecting you from feeling that pain. It honestly, it's one of those things where we talked earlier before we started recording, where we said having to come to that point where you can look at the person that caused you this pain, and instead of saying, you caused me this pain, I hate you, or, you know, whatever you want to say to them, is saying what you said earlier, is like, you know what, not saying thank you for it, right? But saying, because of that, I am who I am. And so I'm not grateful for the pain, but this experience created this is who I am, and I can see above it all. I can move past it now. I can use that healing and become a better person. You can help others. You have a different perspective, a higher perspective. And instead of seeing it as oh, poor me and I hate you, it's like coming to the terms where you can say, I forgive you. You know, I forgive you because I'm no longer holding this over you. But it's like your ego not allowing you to come to those terms yet.
I feel like I haven't finished learning what I'm meant to learn in that. And because I'm
the
not
lesson
done learning the lesson, and in my subconscious is not releasing. It's saying you're not done.
That makes sense.
You still got and the only reason why I'm not done learning the lesson is because that part is protecting, and it's saying you're not moving from here yet, right? It's just got this hold, and even though, like, obviously I'm aware, I share all the messages that I share, but when it comes to even the highest teachers always say that when it comes to you, it's a whole different story, because there is certain parts that there's so many little parts playing, right? That even though you know the information and you know like how to break through, sometimes there is either a lesson that still needs to be learned, a karmatic event as well. There's also karma still playing. There could be many reasons, right? But a lot of the times could be just a pattern like I want to continue to be a victim of this person just so I can reinforce that person's bad and I was the victim, right? And we just kind of keep reinforcing the pattern. You kind of keep telling yourself that person's bad, and you just keep repeating it, and it won't break, and you'll just keep repeating the cycle over and over and over. You keep manifesting situation after situation, and it won't stop until you move, until you release the victim energy, because that's the energy that you have with that person, right? And because you have that tie, well, then here are your consequences of that, right? So yeah, it's just interesting how it all plays. But like I said earlier, there's parts that are easier to release than others, but just having the awareness that you are still in victim energy in certain areas, that is enough, because that means that you are way you're well under your way to heal. Like you're on your way there, you just haven't arrived there yet, right? So it's just certain parts will release easier than others. Others will take longer because who knows why. Until the end, you'll find out, oh, that's why. That's why it took longer, right? So
yeah, but it's so free. It's also so freeing to when you are already in that state of mind where you can say, I know what's driving me.
Yeah.
I know what's controlling me, right? Because these things do control you. They control how you act, how you respond, how you feel, how you physically feel, how your emotions are running wild. They control absolutely everything. It's like someone's holding on to your little controllers in your brain, and it's not you. It's not your higher self. It's the trauma. It's the pain. It's the in this case, the victim energy that's controlling you. But when you start to realize that, it's like you feel like you see it. You see who's controlling it, and then they feel seen. Like, oh shoot, they're aware now. Like they know. And it's like, yeah, I know, I know why I responded, why I said what I said, why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Like now I get where it comes from. And being aware of your reactions towards anything, and in any kind of type of way, physical reaction, emotional, mental reaction, that's where the freeing part comes into play, because you start to realize I am in control of absolutely everything I do. I am responsible for every single thing I say, do, and feel. I'm responsible for it all. It's not what happened to you. It's not the person that cut you off. It's not your boss. It's not your spouse. It's not your kids. It's not your friends. It's you. You're responsible for everything. It's not the weather. It's not, the day, the time, nothing. So that's the freeing part. I feel like that for me has been exactly the most transformative part in my life. Realizing that I cannot put blame on anyone, on anything outside of me. It's just all me now. I'm still not 100% there, but my realization and my awareness have taken me to a whole different level. I can look at people, I can forgive so much easier. I can tell people how I feel, like right off the back, and I don't feel any certain way. Like I like to, nip things right in the bud right away. I don't like to hold on to absolutely any grudges. I don't really have grudges towards absolutely anyone. And when something does make me feel a certain way, like even if I feel a little irritated or angry, I'm not immediately looking at the person and trying to blame it. Even probably in the first initial second, I'd be like, oh, that asshole or that person, or, in those first 2 seconds, but I immediately shut it off. I don't sit in those feelings anymore.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, that once we could free ourselves in so many ways, right? We no longer are prisoners of anything. We always have a choice, right? We always have a choice to stay there or not. And it's just the way it goes for a lot of people. We could choose to stay, or we could choose to release it. And why we choose to stay sometimes, like in my case with this situation, is just there's more learning to do there. And I'm just allowing it to play how it needs to play. But it definitely, this is an invitation for everybody to just look at those areas where you are ready, right? Where you feel like at this moment, I do feel ready to release this, or maybe this thing, not just yet, but hey, you could start in small steps, right? So it's starting to release the smaller things that don't feel as heavy, as dense, so that you can begin to make room so that the day that you are in front of that big thing, you have the energy at that moment to release it, and being patient and being very patient in the process, because some things might take years. Some things I've been able to release things in a day, in an hour, in 24 hours. And then there's things that take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So just being very patient, because this process isn't linear. And when you think you have healed one thing, in 6 months, it comes back and it comes deeper. So it's layers. There's just layers to everything. And just having compassion for yourself through it all, and allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel, so that we can be ready to release those big things. So we just invite all of you to just, reflect on all the information we gave you. We hope this helps somebody in some way or another.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important, and just always have these thoughts. Like, I think one of the biggest things that I carry with me, and I'm telling my kids a lot, I'm constantly writing these questions or these affirmations like on their mirror, so they could see it in the bathroom mirror. So when they wake up and they're getting ready, they're seeing them. So I'm trying to change them like every 2-3 days. But these are type of things that I put on there so they could start realizing, and I tell them all the time, you are the only one in charge of yourself. You are the creator of your own experience. You are the creator of your story. You are the maker. You are everything that happens around you is yours. You choose your response. You choose how you respond to things. So it's like, I choose my response. I choose my reaction. I choose how whatever comes out of my mind or my thoughts or my mouth, it was me. I did it. Nobody else is making me do it. No, it doesn't come from a place of pain, a place of hurt. A projection, we could always project our feelings, or how it happens all the time, right? We're always projecting the pain that we're carrying onto others. So once you start becoming aware of that, so those are the type of things that you just start telling yourself, like, I'm my creator of everything that comes out of all my experiences. I choose. I get to choose how I feel, and it's not going to come from a place of victimhood. It's not going to come from a place of pain. It's not going to come from anger. It's not going to, it's just going to come from a place of love, and it's going to be, and that's just how you want to see it. So you don't want to blame absolutely anything. Everything that happens to me is because I'm going to choose it, or I did it, or I caused it. Nothing happens to you. It happens for you. And those are just words that you guys just keep in your mind and say them to yourself. So it really is just empowering you. It's empowering you to take your life back and to be responsible for your own life and stop saying that you have no control.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this has been good information, good episode. We hope you guys took a thing or two from all of this. We always welcome your feedback. We thank you for staying till the end of this podcast, and we hope to see you on the next one.
Yes, thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.